Please rewind this cassette.
Hey guys, so I'm going to be talking about the box office here for a bit because if you ever followed this channel back in the day, I used to talk about the box office all the time on a weekly basis, and then COVID happened and I pretty much stopped talking about it for, a good year, and I really don't have a lot of interest in it these days. It's not like it used to be for me, but I want to talk about it just because of the response that the certain movies have in the media due to its reception, at least financially, not critically. So Billy Eichner just had Bros come out, directed by Nicholas Stoller, who directed Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get Him to the Greek. He's done a lot of stuff that I really like. This is a Judd Apatow movie. It's the first movie that Judd Apatow's produced that I think I've seen like this released in theaters in a long time. Honestly, the movie looks like it should have come out in like 2008, 2009. It feels like over a decade outdated, at least visually, and kind of that whole Judd Apatow universe and how they do their comedies. So Billy Eichner, he has Billy on the Streets, the show where he goes around and interviews people, which I think is very funny, and I think he's terrific on Parks and Recreation, which he comes in later in that show. But overall, like I'm a fan of the guy. I think he's a really talented comedic actor. I have no problem with an LGBT plus whatever the hell. Sounds like a streaming service, LGBT plus. Um, I have no problem with like a gay rom com. I think that could be good. I like the trailers. I thought there was some funny bits. There's the bit where they're wrestling and then some guys run over some chads and they're like, hey, and then they just see them making out and they're like, oh, my bad. That's a good joke. Anyway, the film got like raved on by critics. It's got like 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a high Metacritic score. Everybody was saying that it was groundbreaking and revolutionary. So the estimates for the box office were between 8 to 10 million dollars, and then the movie opened below 5 million. I believe 4.8 to be exact. So instead of just taking this on a surface level and saying, okay, let's go into some deeper analysis, why didn't this film perform well? Billy Eichner decided to, I think that's his name, right? Eichner. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. Apologies if I am. He went to Twitter to do what everybody does nowadays whenever anything that they make like fails or gets a negative reception. You see this with the She-Hulk people, you see this with the Rings of Power people. It just keeps going this trend of like, well, you didn't like this because of sexism. You didn't like this because of racism. You didn't like this because of some bias that you have because of your white cis male background that you can't possibly understand and comprehend these things. So terms get thrown around like go woke, go broke, which I think is already overused. This film bombed because it was a gay movie and because Billy Eichner is, a preachy SJW. I don't actually think that's true. I don't think the movie bombed because of any of those things. I think that's a narrative that people try to spin. That doesn't mean that Eichner, what he said, which we'll get into in a second, isn't worth criticizing or I don't want to say mocking, but kind of pointing out and being like, really, dude, are you being this obtuse? But at the same time, the conservative grifter YouTubers who are just going to act like everybody didn't go see this because it was a gay movie is ridiculous. Okay, it has, I think, very little to do with that it's a gay film. I don't think anybody gives a shit about that. And I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that it bombed. I think there's a lot of reasons that it bombed. One of them is I just think rom-coms are dead. I don't think any rom-com would do well. The last rom-com that I think did well was Crazy Rich Asians, and that was pre-pandemic. Even if this had big stars in it, let's say it starred Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd as the bros, as the two gay guys, it might have made more money, but you got to think these Apatow comedies, these Judd Apatow films like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Trainwreck, these don't do well anymore. These films don't perform at the box office. They don't make $100 million. Seth Rogen doesn't even make movies like this anymore. So in general, this genre is dead. Comedy is pretty much a dead genre, and the rom-com has been a dead genre, at least theatrically, for years now. Now, if this movie had released on a streaming service, if it had been on HBO, or if it had released on Netflix or something, I think a lot of people probably would have watched it. I think people would have tuned in, and whether they liked it or not is up for debate. but that would have been perfectly fine. So that's a lot of the reasons I think it didn't do well. Who's going to drive out to a theater, pay 12 to $15 to go see a romantic comedy that looks like it has nothing unique about it except for the fact that it's about homosexuality? That's the only thing. Is that exciting enough to go see in the theater? Like, oh, it's two gay guys, so that's worth everybody going in droves to see it? I mean, it just kind of made it looks like a generic comedy. It looks like things we've seen before. The fact that, the sexuality of the characters is a little bit different is interesting, but at the same time, like, we have so many gay characters in television shows now. Euphoria is this huge show. It has trans characters and gay characters. So it's not like there isn't popular media with gay characters. It's just, I think you have to have more of a high concept premise when you're approaching these things nowadays. And Bros just doesn't have that. It just kind of a small scale movie. So it didn't really ever have a chance to be a big hit. Even the $8 million opening, like that wouldn't have been great either, but it did worse than that. But the reason a lot of people are going to attack this or give flack to it is because of Billy Eichner's response on Twitter, which I hope to God he was joking and it was parody and he didn't mean some of this stuff, but he probably did. I don't know. It's hard to tell these days. Back in the day when people used to shit on your work or negative things would happen, the best thing you could do is just not respond to it or be very polite and say, hey, this is what we were trying to do. We failed. It's unfortunate. But now with social media, people get in this defensive mode. And the cringiest thing about it is how people lean on Rotten Tomato scores or how they lean on cinema scores. It's fucking ridiculous. I hate this spin. So not only does he rant on Twitter that the film didn't perform well, but he goes out of his way to talk about, like, we have this high score on Rotten Tomatoes. We had an A- cinema score. Everybody loves the movie. I went and saw a screening of it, and everybody was laughing and crying at the end. I mean, the cope is extreme here. The cope is insane, as if the Rotten Tomatoes score has some kind of validity to it that automatically means your movie's good. Oh, you mean all those critics who have a certain political leaning praised your film a lot, being the first LGBT rom-com? Now, I haven't seen the movie, but I'm just saying, critics were never going to give this movie bad reviews. There was no world where this film was going to get mixed or negative reviews. You can even see a lot of the reviews if you go read them, where people are saying, oh, well, the movie's okay, but because of its representation, it's a groundbreaking, revolutionary film that needs to be noted. I mean, I'm sorry, man. Like, modern day film critics, it doesn't have any merit to me. It's not like I read any of their reviews or you pointing them out makes me go, oh, well, if, somebody from the New York Times said that Bros is good, then that makes it gospel. Beyond that, though, the fact that he's coping by pointing out that he got positive reviews and saying that he went to this screening where everybody had a religious experience. Then he goes on to say that basically people are homophobic. Homophobic Americans didn't go see the movie. People were uncomfortable with the gay thing. And, he said for all the homophobes the non-homophobes that went to go see the movie, thank you, and blah, blah, blah. Dude, like, so your movie bombed because the majority of the country's homophobic and they didn't want to go see your rom-com because it was gay. That's why. It has nothing to do with the marketing campaign, which was, I thought, very lackluster, or even the title or the premise or anything about it. I mean, you had no hook to this movie. The only hook is that you're gay guys. And from what I know, the movie's more about, like, he decides he wants to stay single until he meets this character. But even in the trailers or in the TV spots, they don't really sell that part of it. It's not really part of, and it's not funny. Like, you guys being gay isn't funny. Like, what is that the premise comedically? Like, well, it's funny because they're gay. Like, Chuck and Larry did well years ago, and the whole joke is that Adam Sandler and Kevin James are gay. And back then, people laughed at that. They were like, "Oh, it's funny. These guys have to pretend to be gay." It's not funny anymore. Like, I don't think it's funny to be gay. I don't mock it. It's just like anything else. It doesn't matter. I don't care. So, otherwise, you just made like a generic looking film. So yeah, people didn't run out to go see it. That does not make people homophobic. So his response is amazing because it's very like a reflection of the times that we live in, where, they put all this effort into having a film that they thought was, this important movie, and then they don't get the results that they want. And instead of being humble about it, they attack people or they play a narrative. And this is going to keep happening. The more that these things don't do well, they're going to keep trying to say that it's because white Americans or men or what have you don't want to go see these films, and it's because of whatever reason. So, okay, Billy Eichner, are you including Muslims in this? Are you including the black community in this criticism? I mean, is it specific criticism you're directing this at? Are you saying women are also homophobic? Like, this country's a melting pot. So you're just attacking all these different groups of people because they didn't want to go to the theater and see your damn movie. Just the arrogance of this sort of stuff um, is it's funny. It's really funny. It's honestly hard. I'm not upset or mad at the guy. And like I said, I think he's talented, but it's just funny that, this was a moment that he could have explained what the film was and what it meant to him and kind of how they sold it. But instead, he gets in the defensive and says it's because of this reason. So, like I said, both sides are going to be crazy on this. There's going to be the go woke, go broke side that's going to say the movie bombed because of the woke politics. And then there's going to be the people saying that nobody went to go see the movie because they're not woke enough. And then the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's Rashomon. The truth is that, yeah, it probably didn't speak to a lot of people universally. That makes sense. And at the same time, just because people are praising it in the media doesn't mean it's a great and important film. That's the separation there that you have to deal with. That, like, maybe it really isn't that big of a deal, and you just think it is. It's this whole thing with representation. Like, representation is the end all be all of art. It isn't. Quality is. Stories are. You know, filmmaking, all of these things that are craft, all of those things transcend these shortcomings or these things that you try to attach to it to act like it's more significant than it is. Anyway, the movie's a bomb. I think it's going to become forgotten about in 6 months. It's probably just going to be a meme. And it's upsetting that people are going to react the way that they do, because this is the trend that we're in now. And so the movie's going to be known more for people discussing and not doing well than people actually talking about or reviewing the movie. So, it's just getting boring. This whole thing's getting boring. Uh, and really, most things aren't doing well at the box office right now that aren't blockbusters or certain films. Like Top Gun did well, but a lot of the other movies that are out right now aren't making that much money either. So does it mean that everybody's not going to see them because they're bigots? Or is it just the market's changed significantly from a few years ago, which is what I think happened? I don't have much more to say about this. I think I covered everything. But please don't fall into these trends. Don't fall into these like hyperbole movements of like one way or the other. There is a discussion to be had why movies don't do well or whether they were financially stable or not. Or what, like I wouldn't have produced this movie. If I was a studio head, I'd go, this probably isn't going to make any money. It might have been able to be a successful television show, I think. Like I said, on Netflix or something. But yeah, this is a dead genre, man. You tried to like give life to a dead genre. And I love rom-coms, but they're dead. So just accept that. Go voice Timon and then Lion King sequel or prequel or whatever the fuck it is, Mufasa, and just live the rest of your life thinking that people don't like me, even though you're not a big star too, Eichner. Let me point that out too. Billy Eichner's like a C-list celebrity. I don't even think he's a B-list or certainly not an A-list. Nobody knows who you are, man. I mean, I think most people probably think you're that guy from Parks and Recreation. So yeah, people didn't run out to go see your movie. You're not a movie star. Sorry. All right, thanks for watching. Some updates on the channel though. As you see, I'm trying to develop some new aesthetics. It's still all in the experimental phase. It's getting kind of crazy. I've got one light and another light I'm setting up, and then this light. I have freaking like 2 microphones now. Then I'm gonna switch out between, which is like this one and then my main microphone. But this is just easier. So this is going to be sort of a visual aesthetic I'm developing over time just to make my life easier, because the video editing and everything. I just don't have time for it. But with this, I can sit down and record videos like this, talk, and then, upload them. So there should be more frequent uploading. And it's probably going to be that way going forward. I don't think there's going to be a lot of classic videos of the kind that I made before. Also, I have my podcast out now, Cinema Chads. Episode 1's on the channel. Episode 2 is going to be coming out this week. It's also going to have a visual element. Right now, it's still in an audio phase, but we are doing camera tests and lighting tests, and so we're still trying to develop that too. So look out for that. That's going to come over the next few weeks, where we're going to have guests on that show, and there's going to be little sketches in there and stuff like that. And then just more videos like this, more standalone videos where I talk about things without having to like cut to a bunch of articles and stuff like that. So hopefully you like looking at my beautiful face enough and hearing my tranquil, majestic voice enough that it makes these videos engaging and entertaining. Please subscribe to the channel. I know that's like begging, but please hit the notification bell. There's a donation button now. They didn't used to have that. If you want to donate some money to the channel, even $1, that would be pretty dope, because I don't do the Patreon crap or anything. But it'd be nice to make some extra money so I can buy more equipment to just, make this look more professional as time goes on, because that's my goal, is to have like a really polished looking kind of studio aesthetic, but it's going to take a while, and obviously it takes thousands of dollars. So anything you can give me at the time helps, and I appreciate it. And just look out for the content. We got a podcast coming out. I'll be making more regular videos, and I have some other show ideas that'll be coming down the pipeline. And I think it's going to be a really fun year. So thank you for anyone who's followed the channel this whole time. I think you guys are great. You guys are like my best friends. You're my lovers. You're my family. You're everything to me. Blah, blah, blah. Emotional manipulation. Seek validation. E-beg. Give me more numbers on the subscription count, which makes me feel better about myself. You know the cycle. But yeah, thank you guys. Please rewind your VHS tapes, obviously. Fucking cretins. And look out for more content. There'll be more videos coming out this week. So, bye.